Look in your eyes, I see a paradise. The world that I found is too good to be true. Welcome to another program in Uncommon Sense. You're listening to the voice of Dr. Mel Gill, and today we are going to continue on the topics that we had discussed that we were going to talk about that would be useful to you. And the topic was based around a balance between spirituality and practicality. And so as a result, don't mind me for a second as I get myself prepared for the next because I don't have a lot of machines around me, and I'm still working on my studio and getting the studio up. And getting the wires up, and that way I can launch music from several different sources. So other than putting the wires together, the most of the studio, 80% is done. Another 10% will be finished tonight as I get off this program. And then tomorrow morning through the whole day, I will be focused on my friend's book or series of reports, 81 reports that I need to finish. And I will finish them. Hopefully my idea is to try and finish them by tomorrow, Wednesday. It's taking long because it's so huge. Dr. Oh My God, welcome. Malinka Kopi, welcome. Adeline, welcome. And Abida, welcome to the show. Those are the people that I can see. If you would like me to acknowledge you, type something so I know you're watching, you're here, and that way we can I can acknowledge you. Also, at the same time, before I set up my Skype and my interactive discussions with you, I'm trying to create a radio station in my own home, is what I'm trying to do. And so I've created a 10 by 10 studio on the other side, and I've got several instruments and lights and everything else, and some other things I need to order to be able to make it very, very effective and to make it happen. Now, I keep looking there because that's where I see myself, but here also I see myself. So it's a little bit difficult paying attention to where, because I suddenly disappeared from view. Let me put myself down here. I have to move several little things so that we're all set. Okay, here we go. This is my camera. I gotta remember that because here when I look there, I am seeing your questions. In fact, let me put it over here so I don't have to look so far, and that way I can take your questions and answer your questions at the same time. Today we're going to talk about the balance between spirituality and practicality, and what it means and what happens to individuals when they isolate themselves like this from each other and from large groups of people and from a social life. You're actually beginning to live the life of a mystic. Now, people say to me, how is it possible then that you are able to keep track of so many different things and yet be sane? Well, because I'm relatively calm anyway. A lot of people find that then they don't have peace of mind in this time because and most of them don't, because they don't have peace of mind. Let me start again. Because they don't have peace of mind, they spend a lot of time drowning out the noise that comes from within them. So they like to turn the music all the way up, or television all the way up, or they want to be with friends where they don't participate so much. They're these people on the phone most of the time. I love you. Yes, I love you too. So nice to be with you. And they're answering the Facebook or doing whatever they're doing. So they need this noise to drown out all of that inner screaming that's going on, screaming for attention. The dark areas that need to be addressed, shed light on, and the areas where they have a few question marks about what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, and why is it some people are sad most of the time. Well, let me tell you what happens when you start to develop this we'll talk about intuition, and we'll talk about a question that somebody had asked me earlier about how to deal with people who have jealousy, in personal relationships and also at work. And we'll try and get as much of that as possible. But I want to talk about what develops as a result of trying to find your peace of mind. Because when you start to head towards developing peace of mind, and it's a skill like any skill, it's not a gift that comes to you from God watching, there you go, son, you have peace of mind. Doesn't work like that. It just simply comes as as a result of a disciplined effort to create that state and to stay in that state. Just like mindfulness is not an automatic thing. It's just something you got to develop into and become part of. And so when you start to do that, a lot of things become possible for you, and you start to pay attention to a lot of things you never paid attention to before. Now, to be able to develop peace of mind, especially during this COVID era, and during this time when you are in isolation, in quarantine, if you want to call it, there are lessons that you must learn about how you can do this and how to maintain and maximize this peace of mind, even though you're going through a very tough time. So, number one, learn to trust yourself. When you learn to trust yourself, you begin to realize that it isn't as bad as you sometimes think it is. Our heads tend to blow things out of proportion. Our heads tend to blow a lot of information that people feed us about what other people have said about us and how they feel about us, and we blow it out of proportion. So as you heal and you grow, you will realize that it will all work out eventually. So learn to relax and trust yourself. Your unconscious mind knows exactly where it's going and what it's doing, and it's leading you in that direction anyway. So repeat that in your mind every morning, because the truth is that it all works out in the end for everyone. It really, really does. And you know that old saying that says, in the end, everything will be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end, which is true of everything and the true of your life as well. Now, there are a lot of drastic changes will happen. Economic turmoil is one of those things that we'll see. Economies failing, entire economies, not just businesses and large businesses, but we're talking scale, entire countries that may be out of money. And so a new kind of system would have to be either invented, created, or maybe out of the ashes of what we have. We certainly cannot go back to the way it was. We certainly can't. So we need a new kind of economy. And I don't know which brilliant mind is going to make that possible, but let's see. Who knows? If you have faith in your abilities and if you stay true to this path that you're walking, the path that feels right to you, if you channel your passion into an action that you enjoy, something that is part of that whole story you told yourself, when I have time, I will make this happen. When I have enough education, I will make this happen. When I have enough money, well, you have. Most of you have a lot, enough at least. Maybe not enough to retire, but you have enough to make the and time to make that dream of becoming a writer possible, or becoming a singer possible, or becoming anything it is that you've taught yourself, a new skill that you'd like to get a hold of. So I hope while you're developing all of this, you're also keeping yourself mentally and emotionally healthy. Physically healthy, what I do, if it looks very, I can't see myself, it suddenly disappeared because I hit the wrong button. There we go. What I have is water, mixed with a quarter of a cup of lemon juice, pure lemon juice, and a little, half a teaspoon of baking soda. And you don't taste the baking soda, trust me, just a little bit, just a little pinch. And you create a fairly alkaline solution that your body uses to fight all kinds of illnesses and raise your immune systems as well. And it also kickstarts your ATP functions in your body. adenosine triphosphate, mitochondria, etc., all of that. We'll talk about that one of these days. So, life will not forsake you, people. Love, persistence, and hard work combined together rarely leads a person astray in the long run. Always tell yourself that if you have faith in your abilities, if you stay true to the path that you're walking, um, and if you especially channel your passion into the action I was talking about, you will ultimately receive a breakthrough. And don't stop until you do. So, in other words, as soon as you trust yourself, you will know how to heal and how to grow as well at the same time. Welcome, Sam. Welcome, Orlin. Welcome, Shirley. MJ, Charn, welcome. Antonio, thank you so much. It's time for pranayama. Prana means life, yama means prolong. Prana is divine healing, intelligent energy can heal. Yes, absolutely. And Margarita, welcome as well. So there are a lot of people that, like all of these here, that will teach you one way or another to help yourself. And these people, like Josephine, welcome, and you can learn. They're here to teach you what they know. And it doesn't mean that this is the end all or be all or the sum of everything that there is and all the knowledge, but everybody has a piece of the truth. It doesn't mean that one person is entirely correct about everything and the other person is not, and so on and so forth. Everybody has different perspectives. Some people from a higher perspective, some people from a lower perspective, and some people maybe from a perspective of growth and dimensionality and age, and so that could be the result. Margarita says she's from Greece. Hey, Margarita. I was just thinking about Greece the other day. I remember there was an a festival happening in Mykonos, and I know I paid to listen to some speakers and da 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 and all their bullshit, but I spent very little time at the festival itself. I was there basically to meet some friends, chat, talk about possibilities, blah 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 blah, many other things. And Mykonos is so famous for its coffee shops, and most of them, 60% of them, are by the sea. I remember I was sitting with a couple of people, Pierre and Manish. We were sitting in one of the cafes. So you go in on the very narrow street, and then you go up, and then right at the end, we sat on the balcony. And it was so beautiful just to watch the sea come in and just drink our coffee. And we knew we had to be back at a certain time for something that they were taking us for. And it was just beautiful. You remind me of that. And one of these days, I'd like to spend some time there. We're talking about finding peace of mind. A lot of you are going to be learning about many different skills and many different things from Udemy, from Khan Academy, from Coursera, from even Harvard. Go to Harvard Extension School, and they have courses for free. Imagine you can say to your friends, hey, I'm studying at Harvard. Distance learning, but regardless, you're starting at Harvard, and to get a little piece of paper, a certificate from Harvard that says you attended the school. How amazing is that? And if I'm not mistaken, more than 70-80% of universities in the United States are now offering all these courses for nothing online. Please check it out. I don't have all of that resources here, and so you have to pay attention to that. Now, somewhere along the way, your best teacher are the mistakes that you make as well. So focus on what you're learning, because mistakes and setbacks, they're a form of practice. I told you the last time, don't be upset that you failed, because be happy. You know, the American Indians, the Hopi Indians that live in the southwest of the United States, their prayer when they wake up in the morning is to the Great Spirit. And they say, Great Spirit, please allow us to make at least 20 mistakes today. Why do they pray for mistakes? Why do they pray for failures? Because they believe that the only way that they can succeed in life, the only way that they can gain experience and wisdom is by failing. And if you make no mistakes, then you're learning nothing. So if you have that kind of an attitude, now going to school is not such a big pressure cooker environment for your child to pass all of these exams, similar exams, and they put you in like cattle, and you all have to pass the same exams and be in a bell curve, and then of course you get chopped off if you're not, and you really feel like cattle. And yet the 7 or 9 intelligences are never taught in school. Everybody's on a wise intelligence scale, so it's very difficult. Good evening, Josephine. Joycelyn says, yeah, I saw one friend had a certificate from online training from Harvard. It's very amusing, but you can have it too, and it costs nothing. It costs zero. So go look it up. I think they have over 600 courses, and you'll be surprised. Some of them are simple little things that you'll be enjoying as well. So sometimes things go wrong when you do things to learn a new skill or learn a piece of knowledge that will help you further in your career or further in say broadcasting, if you want to do online broadcasting, or you want to be a teacher or trainer, whatever your goals are. There are a lot of people that will help you make it possible. In fact, when I'm all set up and I'm all ready, then university is actually next door. I'm going to actually be broadcasting and helping you achieve some of those goals as well. So the bottom line is, your journey isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be worth it. So to never struggle like the Hopi Indians is to never grow. So you got to struggle. You got to fight, rage against the tide that works sometimes in the wrong direction. And from that mistake, or not allowing yourself to flow into to get into the flow, you begin to learn what you're doing wrong. So there's no perfectly smooth road for any place that's worth going. You got to be able to expect that. Also, to have peace of mind, you need to ease your expectations. Sometimes our expectations are chunked up. They're so big that we don't think that we can achieve some of these goals, but we can achieve these goals because life is under no obligation to give you exactly what you expect. It will give you pieces of it. It will give you 1 or 2 things that you want, but the third thing you don't have. So that's where you come in. That's where your effort comes in. That's where your ability to cling on, hold on, never let go, never quit. That's where that comes in. When you are persistent, you will get the prize. You see, they say the early bird catches the worm. Let me change that a little bit. The persistent bird catches the worm. Never give up. So you'll be surprised as well what you will have. So you must see and accept things as they are, instead of you hoping and wishing or expecting them to be something else. Just because it didn't turn out like you had envisioned completely, your relationship or your children or your business or your circumstance or your house, whatever the case might be that you're building, or your little space, it doesn't mean that it isn't exactly what you need to be able to get to where you ultimately want to go. Allow destiny to play a part in it, and at that point, you will start to let go of what you think should be, ought to be, must be, and instead let them really be the way they are. Do your best, though. I'm not asking you to sit back and lie down on the couch and do absolutely nothing. Sometimes within all of the young leaves that we see wrapped up. But today, my father and the maid, they were mowing the lawn. They were mulching a lot of the grass and a lot of the branches and everything else. And somewhere within all of that, my father was checking out the wonderful ladies' fingers that are coming out. But when you look at ladies' finger plants and flowers, you begin to realize that wrapped within these young leaves is always the sound of water. Now, it sounds strange to say that, but whether it's raining or not, my father is out there watering them. He's making sure that they all get fed. So the water, metaphorically for us to finding peace of mind, is to open up to this nourishment that comes from everything around us that surrounds us, that we surround ourselves with. And so it makes us, it gives us the things we need to be able to make us rise towards the sun. And we're all trying to reach that goal ultimately, and not all of us will reach the sun, but eventually we will have that. Marissa, welcome. Andrew, welcome. Kiheng, welcome. So, another episode. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, welcome. You're a bit late. I started exactly at 9:30. Now I have this precise thing that allows me to plan the next talk, announce it in detail, and then count down before it starts. So today I'm supposedly broadcasting to YouTube and to uh, Facebook. I think. I'm not sure if that's happening. I'll check afterwards. There's a way to check. Um, I try to make these programs only an hour, and sometimes it's very difficult to cover everything in an hour. But let me talk about, maybe I have to split today's topic between tomorrow and today. We're talking about balancing practical and spiritual things, and in between, to be able to find your peace of mind. And if you miss the first three parts, or um, ways in which to reach peace of mind, you can play this back again, this recording. I'm out to item number 4 right now, where we talk about opening up to someone you trust. And that can give you peace of mind as well, because you aren't alone, people. Even though you are in isolation, even though you're in quarantine, you're not really alone. You've got, I'm going to pretend this is a phone. You've got a phone that allows you to connect with people around you. They don't have to be necessarily best friends. Sometimes you have to allow someone special in when you're in a very dark place. And that's when psychologists come in, or people who are trained in these professions can actually help you at the same time as well. Now, you all would have someone you know. Like, say, for instance, I'm not going to tell you who to choose, your husband, your wife, uh, somebody else's husband, somebody else's wife. It's not my place to tell you who to choose. You decide who you want to have to be able to allow into your life, where you can trust with some of the details of your life. You don't expect these guys to solve your problems. Just allow them to face your problems with you. You don't expect to sit with this wonderful human being and expect them to give you the answers, or nor do you. Let me teach you something as a therapist. Don't sit with someone thinking you can solve their life's problem for them. You cannot. Sometimes what people need is a listening ear. Sometimes what they need is somebody that will not judge them and allow them to face their problems, um, um, just get permission to stand beside them as they do that, or give these people permission to stand beside you as you are facing your problems. And then eventually they'll see what kind of a hero you can be as well. Now, these people won't necessarily be able to pull you out of your darkest place, but the light that spills in when they enter into your life will at least show you which way the door is. They may be that light at the end of that tunnel that you've been looking for. And sometimes when you trust enough someone, a higher force takes over their mind and consciousness, and they don't know why they said what they said. They just possessed to say it. And that could be what the universe was providing for you without you realizing that it's coming out of somebody else's mouth, and they don't even know. And sometimes when things come out of your mouth, you go, why did I say that? Oh, wow, that sounded great. That sounded amazing. That sounded fantastic. Wow. But then again, if you are me, the reverse will happen as well sometimes. When I say a few things to someone, I say, oh, the minute it comes out, I said, oh my God, why did I say that? And it made life more difficult, and so on and so forth. So anyway, long story short, the important thing to remember is that you are not alone. So no matter how bizarre or embarrassed or pathetic you feel about your own situation right now, whether it's financial, emotional, mental, spiritual, sexual, there's always somebody in your life who has dealt with something similar or similar emotions and who wants to help you. And there always will be out there a lot of people who want to help. They're called coaches or self-styled coaches, people who've been through the same thing. So when you hear yourself say, I'm alone, it's just your insecurities, trying to sell you a lie, and begin to realize you're not really alone. You just allow yourself to be alone. Number 5, please use hope to drive positive action. And this is the necessity of hope. People said, why do you name your publishing company Pandora Publishing, or your film company Pandora Multimedia? Because the story with Pandora that everyone knows is that this little girl, half god, half human, was being given by the greatest of these gods this box to hold until he got back. And the caveat was, the warning was, do not open the box. And of course, Pandora was curious. She opened the box, and next thing you know, all the ills of the world came out. All of the emotional ills, the mental ills, the physical ills of the world came out, and everything became very dark. But what people don't know is that the very last thing that came out of the box was hope. It was a light. And what was the purpose of hope? To go out and collect all these things and bring them back to the box. Such a huge undertaking. And that's kind of what it feels like sometimes. Georgi from Ivanau. Georgi runs a foundation, the Good Ones. It's called the Good Ones. He lives in Varna, and I love sitting and chatting with Georgi. What a amazing mind, what an amazing brain, what a good heart, and such an honest person. And a lot of people have approached him and taken advantage or tried to take advantage of him, but he's a very smart man. He doesn't get caught up in all this. He's created a line of clothing from hemp. This is all recyclable stuff, and so his hemp clothing is taking off. Please visit his store, The Good Ones, and see if you can support him. That's very, very important as well. Yusuda Mitsuyoshi, welcome. Yes, you on YouTube? Oh, I am on YouTube. Very good. Thank you, Josephine. I don't have to check now. This thing works. It's so simple. And Smilka, welcome. Smilja, welcome. How do I pronounce that? It's from Serbia. Anyway, so use hope to drive all your actions, because this is where the motivational hoo-has like myself come in, because we provide you that hope. We are hope mongers. And the job that we do, sometimes the very least that you can do in your life is figure out, what you hope for. And maybe at that point, the most you can do is live inside of that hope as you work for what it is that you want. That's an important thing. So do not admire what you hope for from a distance, from other people. That's called jealousy, envy, which we will talk about in a minute. But live right, live honest, like Georgi. Live honest to your word. Your word is your bond, and you'll be surprised. And maybe like him, get deeply involved with the thoughts and activities that keep you, your hope alive and your intention possible. Because hope, alone will not save you from despair, yes, but hope empowers you to strive and grow even when your circumstances are in shambles. This you have to pay attention to as well. And so the road that is built with hope is actually more pleasant when you look at it from all angles. And compare that with the road that's filled with despair and negativity. It's a little bit tougher to walk. And even though they may both seem to lead to the same place in the short term, it is the positive growth that you attain on this road, this temporary place, that will benefit your final destination. So making the journey fun is what hope does for you. It allows you to feel the rapture of connectedness with the people that you surround yourself with, or that one special person I said allow to be in your life. You don't have to give or surrender yourself to that person, but in moments to be able to trust and let go. It's all about balance. It's about accepting reality without giving up on what needs to be done to reach your desired destination in the long run. But it doesn't hurt sometimes to daydream and think about where you would end up. And so therefore the pull towards that goal is better. Number 6. What was number 6? Moving towards something instead of away, which is part of hope. When you move towards something, you are motivated by the destination. When you move away something, you are demotivated by the possible destination, the possibilities. This is why most smokers can't quit smoking. They want to move away from what they're going to do anyway in an hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and they want to move towards health. But that's the correct direction to go. It's not to move away from ill health and lung disease and what have you and blah, 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 blah. But instead to move towards health, to move towards freedom, to move towards a choice that makes the future that you want to have happen for yourself a little bit more compelling. I just bit myself. When the lemon is too tart, your mouth just closes up like that. It is a bit sour. So when somebody says, don't think about eating chocolate cake, don't eat that chocolate cake, what are you thinking about now? Well, guess what? Eating that chocolate cookie or cake or the chocolate bar is probably what comes up in your head. When you concentrate on not thinking about something, you end up thinking about it. Don't think about sex. Well, guess what? That's what you think about. Don't think about Your mind, your brain is constructed in such a way, at least the language structures of your brain and conceptual structure, the concept structures of your brain are organized in such a way that you cannot see the negative of an idea. You have to create it and then negate it and put it aside. That's what your mind does. So whenever you try to move away from something, that's the thing you move closest towards. You want to move away from poverty? Well, that's what you're headed towards. If you want to move away from conflict, that's what you're heading towards. That's what you're going to experience, because this is what you fly from. But what's the opposite of conflict? Peace and peace of mind. You're heading towards peace of mind. Feels better as you get closer and closer and closer. But what's happening that you don't want to pay attention to is that, and eventually you'll see, you moved away from conflict. Same with poverty. Same with all the other things that you're trying to achieve in life and the goals that you're trying to achieve in life. Because by persistently trying to move away from what you don't want, you're forced to think about it so much that you end up carrying its weight with you along the way and slows your journey down. And that's what you need to pay attention to. But if you instead choose to focus all of your mental, emotional, psychic energy on moving towards something that's brilliant, that's hopeful, that's fun, that's magnetic, then you naturally leave the negative weight behind, because you progress as you move forward, and then you'll be surprised what will happen. So bottom line, instead of concentrating on eliminating negatives in your life, concentrate instead of creating something more positive, like a new skill, a new thought, a new way of being, a new way of life, a new lifestyle choice. That would be very good as well. It just happens automatically to replace the negativity. In fact, there's a term for it in psychology. It's called learned optimism, and you start to develop this opportunistic and optimistic way of thinking, which is also under the umbrella of solution-based mindfulness or solution-based therapy. So sometimes you have to take a few steps back from everything you're doing to be able to achieve peace of mind. Everything seems simpler from a distance. When you're too close to a conflict situation, when you're too close to something that's causing you upset, that's causing you stress, that's making you hold your stomach juices so tight that it's burning a hole right through it. If you give yourself some distance, not just emotionally, but physically as well, and this is what this whole quarantine is doing for us. It's creating that distance from the things that were stress before. And so that was the very difficult thing. So now, sometimes you simply, when you distance yourself, you see things clearly, and you also have an emotional distance from everything as well. So, Mo, my mother is on. Hey, Momji, how are you? And she has a system now. No matter how many times I explain to her and my father how to get to Netflix, she will lose her way. Maybe that's the title of my next book. I lost my way while traveling to Netflix. So it's hard for her to switch between the HDMI, which is the regular TV from the service here called StarHub, to Netflix, which is also a lot of great movies that she's watching. And so I think they've watched more movies in the last week than they have in their entire lifetime. So it's very, very cool for them to catch up on everything um, fun. So recognize when you step away from your problems or give yourself distance from your issues, your situations, let's not call them problems, let's call them situations, then you realize that you are more than whatever is troubling you. That a very real part of you exists beyond your worries and beyond your doubts and your independence from the troubles and frustrations of the present moment is really where you are, but you don't realize it because you're too close. So you got to give yourself that distance. Step back, observe yourself as you experience each moment, and be present. Be forever present. Watch yourself as you think and as you take action and as you experience your emotions. Because your body may experience pain, and yet that pain is not you. Your mind may encounter troubles, and yet you are not the troubles. You are much more. You are beyond that. So think of the most difficult challenges that you are facing now in life, emotionally, mentally, physically, and imagine that it's not you, but a close friend who's facing this challenge. Now, what advice would you give this close friend? What would you give him or her? What advice would you give? If you could step back and instead of being the subject, now you are dissociated and from the you that is experiencing the issue, and look at your situation like an objective observer. How would you look at it differently? Think of the advice that you have and you would give your friend, say if your friend were in your own shoes. Are you following your own best advice right now? Pay attention to that. Somebody wrote to me in DM earlier this morning, and she thought I didn't understand Thai, but I'm beginning to understand. Some people are helping me translate as well, close friends. And I asked, what's this person doing a course on? What's this person talking about? And they summarized and told me, and I said, wow, that's not the same person in the private message that's sending out stuff. So on the one side, they're pretending to be something, and the other side, they're living a double life. I don't know. Like I talked about in the past program on Friday or Thursday, I said be congruent. That means your actions, your words, your feelings, your thoughts should all be in line. And if they're not, get them in line. It's not a sin. It's not a bad thing. At least you're observant and you see that. And when they are, you'll be much happier. You won't suffer as much. So don't, in terms of what you're going through, don't let your current troubles cloud your thinking. Take a few steps back, give yourself the benefit of the distance, and this quarantine is the perfect time to do it. Distance from your job, your dead-end job that you never liked anyway, that caused a lot of stress and allowed you to mix with a lot of people that gave you a very low concept of who you are, what you are, and all of that. Then give yourself some of this great advice that you would normally give a friend or a brother or a sister, or a mother or father or son or daughter. You also need to give yourself time as you do this. This is the eighth most important thing about finding peace of mind. We have all the time we need now. I mean, ironically, we don't know when this whole lockdown situation is going to happen. In Singapore, they don't call it a lockdown. They call it 50 Shades of Orange. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They call it circuit breaker. And the emotional healing that needed to take place before COVID-19 was a process. But you didn't have time for that process. Now you do. So don't rush yourself through all of this. Take your time. Take your time. Because other people will say, you got to do it now. You got to finish it now. You got to make it happen now. Don't let other people force you through it. Because you know what time you need. You know how hard it is to unstick things that have stuck for years. And it's very, very difficult. So um, don't let other people force you through it. Moving on doesn't take a day, guys, from relationships and things that you've held on in the past. It takes a lot of little steps to be able to break free of your broken past and your wounded soul. It takes a lot of time. It's not easy. I realize that, but you got to pay attention to that. So take today and tomorrow and day after, breath by breath, one step at a time, one little step at a time. Never let your troubles from the past make you feel like you have a bad life now. That's the past. You cannot do anything about it. You cannot change it. It doesn't define you. Maybe it pointed out some of the errors you've made, but it's okay. We learn from the mistakes. We learn from the errors. That's what gives us wisdom. That's what gives us the ability to go forward, the ability to, to be wise and calmer. So our wounds that happen in childhood and along the way, sometimes the openings into the very best and most beautiful parts of us. We keep it hidden, we keep it blocked, we cover it with humor, we cover it with activity, we cover it with other things, anger sometimes, but you need to give yourself this needed time and the permission to explore and to heal that beautiful part of you that has overcome adversity. And your adversity quotient is high, but there are thousands of these little things that when they come together create a happy big thing, if you will. And finally, look for the beginning in every ending. I know relationships will end as a result of this isolation, quarantine. And I told people before about enlightened relationships. Enlightened relationships. You have to know that every relationship is a preparation for the next, no matter how much you want it to be forever. And it might, as far as forever is concerned. Most of you have no concept of forever. That's why you are persuaded into buying 99-year leases thinking that that's forever. But no, eventually that's going to be a call that's coming up soon, at least on this island. And also in your life. Forget about the fact that your apartment goes to zero in 99 years. Your life goes to zero in 99 years or less. So who knows? Or more, so depending how well you keep yourself. So in every ending, there's always a beginning. And if you pay attention to that and you allow yourself to recognize that, a lot of things will happen for you that is good as well. I remember a wise man once said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Today is a new beginning, tomorrow as well. And you need to treat it that way. Stop thinking about regrets and what could have been, what would have been, what might have been. If only you had done this, said this, did that, thought this. Because that's just staring at what cannot be. So say to yourself, maybe compose a sentence that says, "Dear past, thank you for all of the life lessons you have taught me." And then turn to the future and say, "Dear future, I'm ready now. I don't know what you're going to bring, but my heart's beating like crazy. I have no idea what to expect tomorrow, day after. No clue. You might see some of those unpleasant people, but now you know what to do to avoid those guys, those clowns. But now, who knows? You might also see the love of your life. Somebody who gives you all the pleasure, all the joy, all the happiness you ever need, or the opportunity of your life, where you start to now see yourself becoming a valuable addition to mainstream life on the planet or in the country or wherever it is you find yourself. Because a great beginning always occurs at the exact moment you thought that it would be the end of everything. Well, guess what? The whole planet resets itself. So ask yourself this question, because this is the most important thing. What gives you peace of mind when times are tough and stressful? What gives you peace of mind? And then spend more time doing that. That's as simple as that. If you have any questions for me, now is a good time to ask me. Let me see. There's no questions yet. Nothing here. Let me check Facebook. Nothing. No questions. Please feel free to ask me any questions. To answer the question, a friend had asked me about jealousy. She has a friend at work who is also feeling jealous of her ability. You see, there are different kinds of jealousies, just to let you know. And we tend to use words like jealousy, love, and yet love has many meanings. In Greek language, there are 7 words to describe love: brotherly love, communal love, romantic love, erotic love, which is also kind of linked, parental, filial love. But also at the same time, there's agape, which is unconditional love. It's presumably the love that a lot of people who are close to God have. And so it's a little bit different. So in terms of jealousy, there's several kinds. There's romantic jealousy. There is work or power jealousy. Work jealousy is basically that: power, the balance of power. People are talking about the balance of power. Or friend jealousy, where people are very afraid of losing a friend to somebody else. In other words, their quote unquote friend is now spending more time with the other person. And so as a result, they're losing a friend. And this power form of jealousy, well, it comes from a fact that you might have missed a promotion or an accolade, just not a promotion, but somebody thanks you and salutes you because you've done a great job, and that should have been me instead of her, and so on and so forth. And so they feel that way. Sometimes there's also family jealousy, similar in the same way, because sibling rivalry, you've heard a lot about that, always a trademark characteristic of this family jealousy. And it could be wanting to earn the love of father or mother, daddy or mommy, being there. Oh, look what a good person, a good boy you are, a good girl, etc., etc. And you don't have that. Then, of course, there's always abnormal jealousy. Abnormal, this is where psychologists like me come in, because a number of adjectives usually come before this word. Adjectives like morbid, psychotic jealousy, pathological, delusional, or anxious jealousy. No, I'm not talking about Donald Trump, but necessarily it can include people in that same class. So abnormal jealousy can be attributed to things like, say, for instance, extreme insecurity about the way they look. Maybe their hair is blowing in the wind and you see nothing but a bald spot, because that's what the whole hair thing is all about for Donald Trump. And I think there was one picture that was there where it showed that he had an orange face and his skin was really white, and that he used a wrong kind of foundation. I think it was something like that. All of that is due to a mental illness. I mean, this guy really, somebody please ask him to resign. A lot more people will live. I hear that some of the brainiacs are going out and forcing a lot of hospitals throughout the United States to not classify further deaths under COVID, but to put them under natural courses. If this is ever unearthed, we have a federal mandate to remove him from office. This is called obstruction of justice. And really, so paranoia, schizophrenia, delusions of unfaithfulness can sometimes also cause people to feel jealous in one situation or another. where somebody can maybe even see someone as a threat to their relationship because of this paranoid presence. It's not easy to determine sometimes when someone goes into this neurotic jealousy and what they think is theirs or should be theirs. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. It's kind of like um, long-winded, but I hope that answers your question, because the the cause of jealousy is many causes, depending on the mind of the person. If they're fairly emotionally healthy, and some jealousies show them some insecurities that they've had from past, and it helps them to get past that as well. Things they're fearful of, low self-esteem. Um, and sometimes it could be that uh, some mates, because of this jealousy, exercise extreme, excessive form of control over their spouses, their boyfriends, girlfriends, and so on and so forth. Maybe you have unrealistic. It will lead to unrealistic concerns about their faithfulness. You see these in the memes and the stories that are on TikTok, and all these other things. I saw you look at her. No, I didn't. I didn't look. And then he has his eyes gouged out. They think it's funny, but it's something that is a mental illness and needs to be looked at some point as well. So when we talked earlier in the first half hour of this program, 45 minutes of this program, and I talked about heading towards peace of mind and letting go and allowing yourself to have space. Well, that if you don't do any of that, then you start to build up into your little bubble, your schizophrenic bubble, a world of your own that is stuffed full of paranoia. So it'll be very, very difficult as well. So how do you, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, please tell me. How to have peace, stay home when your partner starts to want to control everything at home. It's going to be very difficult. These are things that I always say to people. When you are first in a relationship, set boundaries in that relationship. Let your partner know what they can and cannot do. We can have a discussion. We can have a massive disagreement with each other. We can but no hitting, no violence. This or this, no violence. Don't use bad language as much as possible. Except to emphasize something. This is so good, something like that, in a positive way. The word F-U-C-K, if children are listening, please pronounce it for them, can have a function as a wonderful adjective for everything. Life is so brilliant and wonderful and whatever. So I hope that answered the question somewhat. And so it'll help you that if you are in that instance where you are experiencing that kind of problem with the controller, you need to establish priorities. You need to establish the fact that both of you are on the same page, Abida, and that both of you would like to have more peace instead of conflict. So give them the option. We can escalate this, dear, sweetheart, darling, or we can learn to use this to love each other more and learn from our mistakes. What would you like to do? I personally, tell them, would like to see us succeed at being a couple, succeed, but you got to decide a couple of what, you got to, sometimes without the passion, a lot of things disappear. You also have to ask yourself these questions. Were you raised in a repressive environment? Because if you were, then you would end up cycling in this manic depressive haze, going back and forth, and you'll also start at the same time to have this passive aggressive stance with your significant other. And It may have something to do with the kind of caregivers you had when you were younger, and whether or not your home, the atmosphere in your home when you were growing up, was warm and loving. But was it also critical? Were people making fun of each other? Um, and also, psychologists like me would ask questions like, what was the relationship like between your early caregivers and yourself? Whether it's father, mother, brother, sister, aunt, nanny, religious leader. And if it's a Catholic priest, then we all know it is. No, I shouldn't have done that. It's a joke. So anyway, sometimes the persistent feelings of emptiness and lack of self-worth also hurts as well. So ask them to talk to their friends about this jealous feelings that they have, or the controlling feelings. And then sometimes it'll be very difficult because it's not your partner's fault. It's not. Sometimes you have to take a look at the pathology behind it and understand that part. And then you'll be a little bit more forgiving as well. If you have that jealousy, then you need to recognize it. You need to name it. When you call it what it is and you don't justify its existence, it loses its power straight away, because we're no longer letting it shame us. Acknowledging that you are jealous actually opens the door to learning more about that jealousy as well. And I hope that will help you in the long run. You can also learn from your jealousy, just to let you know, Abida, because we can use feelings of jealousy as an inspiration to grow. And so maybe that's what I'm assuming your partner is male. I'll tell you why the male-female distinction is important also at the same time, because hormones have a huge part to play in all of this. And schizophrenia is mildly linked to some of these episodes. And I don't want to be sexist about this, but I do want to tell you that the studies have shown that women tend to overthink situations, and men tend to underthink situations and to push them off away and think that they can buy their way out. So don't let that happen. Learn from the jealousy. So and don't wallow in the jealousy, especially, and start to sit together and discuss how you can better improve, so that both of you can have a better time at life or the rest of life. Sometimes you may have to just let it go. That's all you got to do. Let it go. Breathe deeply. Imagine it's flowing through you like the wind. And repeat that. Just flowing through you like the wind. It's not part of you. It's just coming through you. And then you'll be able to manage your emotions healthily at that point as well. Mindfulness. If you don't remember the mindfulness broadcast we had 2 weeks ago, go back. You can always go back on my Facebook and elsewhere. Later, when I'm all set up, I can put it all on one YouTube channel, and then you can refer to it, and it'll be in order. And I'll name it as well. It'll take a little time, but we'll make it happen. And then you can refer to that as well. And also, somewhere along the way, I need someone to get a transcript together. So it's a lot of things I got to do. It's big. It's too big. When you are jealous, it also could mean that you don't have a very high view, self-worth, or view of yourself, and or your self-esteem is very low. And so what you need to do is to pay attention to some of the positive traits that you have, things that you're grateful for. I think it was the psychologist Hibbert who said something like this: she's really good at playing with her kids, and I'm not so good, but I'm great at reading to them. Yeah, that's a gift that she talks through. And they love that about me. The kids love that I'm not that great with the way she deals with kids, but I'm good at one thing, which is reading, or one particular thing. You don't have to be everything to your children. I think I told you this, Abida, when you were dealing with your daughter. This was 12 years ago, maybe more. And that same advice worked for you, didn't it? Let me know. because that would be something that you want to practice now with your partner, the same exact thing. um, because this reminds you, kiddo, and you got to remind yourself of this, that you will have strengths and you will have weaknesses, but focus on the strengths that you have and your self-esteem will automatically rise. Focus on your weaknesses and your self-esteem will go down, like as if you're flushing the toilet emotionally. So jealousy is not a normal reaction. Just want to tell you this. Just because it happens everywhere and with everyone, it's not normal. This is where psychologists come in and become involved, because it becomes very problematic when it becomes um, um, persistent. And so when you find yourself feeling jealous, recognize what's happening straight away and delve deep into your relationship and into yourself. And that way you can get past it as well. So, thank you for answering my questions. Appreciate it. You're welcome. Let me know if that was the same advice. I gave you the same advice years ago, and I hope it worked with your daughter as well. Simona says, inconsistent libido in a relationship. That's the story of life. This is what poets write about for years. Um, I think it was a friend of mine who said before. She said, also a psychologist, and he's right. He says, women and men are the same when it comes to libido. They really, I mean, women are just like men. They love to have sex. Women love to have a lot of sex with the man they love. Men love to have lots of sex. What's up? Does that, I thought it was funny when they said it, not so funny when you're living through it. So let me tell you about this gorilla that you are, at the risk of not knowing what the situation is, inconsistent libido in a relationship. Testosterone, both of you have it, secreted by the pituitary, goes into the bloodstream. For the male, well, let me start with the female because it's easier. If you have one drop of testosterone, like one drop in your system, see, what is one drop? I don't even have that. I'm going to pour a drop of this lemon on this table. I hope there are no ants at this place. But let me, they got it. Okay, nope, there's too much. How can I see myself? I can't see myself. Okay, here we go. If you have one drop of testosterone in your system, see that? That's a drop. Here. If you have one drop of testosterone, and I'm going to pick up your testosterone that just fell on my desk. If you have one drop of testosterone, ladies, in your system, it makes you horny as hell. It makes you want to sit on the first erect object that you see, and it makes you want to have sex. It drives your sexual, that part of your brain, the limbic structure, is involved in this. Your sexual response is heated up and makes you want to have sex. That's one drop in your bloodstream. A man has over 100 drops in his bloodstream. Then you go, oh my God. Yes. Why? Nature designed him that way. When there is testosterone is an essential component in the manufacture of sperm. So it goes down to the testicular area, secreted in the bloodstream, goes down to the testicular area and creates massive amounts of sperm, copious amounts of sperm. And when the testicles are full, then the hormone, testosterone, has nowhere to go but back in the bloodstream. And it washes up against the limbic structure and creates sexual arousal. At that point, they become antsy. A week later, or few days. They can't last a few days until they release that collected amount of sperm in the testicles, and either to masturbation or sex. And then the testosterone again comes out, goes back down to where it's needed in the factories there, and create more sperm. And this is a cycle that repeats itself every day, every few days. And this is the gorilla that you have as your companion, partner, and so on and so forth. So a man has to have sex or masturbate frequently. Now, people say, well, no, my man doesn't masturbate. Well, if they do a study, and they'll find that 90% of men masturbate and the other 10% are lying. It happens all the time. It will, and if they don't do it consciously, then it comes out in the form of wet dreams at night when they're sleeping, and so on and so forth. So we're talking about people without erectile function disorders and other things, and so on and so forth. So recognizing this and the libido levels, you have to also understand that stress has a way of reducing libido levels. So you'll notice that most of your partners who are now stuck at home and no longer stressed at work, their libido seems high because, hey, there's nothing else to distract them, and you're there, and so on and so forth. And this is why a lot of affairs and a lot of marriages and relationships begin in the office, because they're all exposed to each other. There's pheromones flowing back and forth and all kinds of things happening. Now remember, the Human Genome Project, that's been going on for the last 25, 30 years, has come up to one devastating conclusion, that our genetic structure is 98% gorilla. That we're no different from the great apes, except for that 2% that has created the part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex, the ability, the supposed ability to think. Now, when a man is aroused to that level where there's the sperm sacs are full, and there's a lot of testosterone in the bloodstream, anything that bends down looks interesting. That's where bestiality happens. People making love to animals if they cannot find women, and so on and so forth. This is where you have rape happening, because cognition, the ability to think, drops by as much as 80% when you are in high sexual arousal. So what do I teach? I teach a lot of people how to lower that, because you might be in a profession where it doesn't help you to have very heightened sexual stimulation. Like, say, for instance, if you're a priest and giving out this round cookie thing, whatever, Eucharist or whatever it's called. And people are people. So, and I have advised men in such capacity to be able to take care of themselves as well. Monks are not excluded from all this also, just to let you know. I hope that answers your question, Simona. Just pay attention to that libido thing, because that's important, and you can use it, by the way, to help yourself. And there are some food items that women can take that increases their libido as well. But this is not the lesson. Otherwise, we'll go on till 11 o'clock. I'm already past my 10:30 mark that I said I was going to do. I'll answer one more question before I... Yes, talking to daughter and talking to hubby is totally different planet. Yes, it is a totally different planet. Yeah, but you know what? Is that the planet you chose to be on? Yeah. He's not from Mars. You're not from Venus. Both of those places cannot support life. Both of you are Earthlings, and you're on Earth. So settle the score here, or find a new man, or he will have to find a new woman. You decide which one is more important. Any other questions? No other questions so far. All right, we will continue this discussion. I'm not done yet about how we can work towards how we can use this time to balance our practicalness and our spirituality. So, becoming practical and spiritual are not necessarily um, mutually opposing goals that we can have. They're not mutually exclusive. So, we have to pay attention to that as well. If you have any questions, now would be a good time for you to ask me. I'll wait for your questions. And there are no more questions. It was a Japanese poet who talked about how young leaves are usually wrapped by older leaves that fall to the wayside. And the only thing that separates the young leaves from the old leaves is water. This delicate observation gives us perhaps this quiet hope that embedded in our nature as we begin to deal with everything we have, COVID, the economy, our building of our gifts, even as that gift unfolds. Embedded in that seed of that growth is the blossom. Just like embedded in the womb is the child that's fully grown already. So embedded in the impulse to care for people is the piece of love that is realized. And embedded in the dark edge of risk and fear is the authenticity that makes life worth living. So wrapped within young leaves is the sound of water that will nourish them once they have opened to the world. It's like the fears that we have kept inside, the young, the little us that we've not allowed to grow and release itself in a catharsis of play, of seasons embroiled by circumstance, by other people, by pain. You see, it's already there inside us, prompting us to unfold and to grow. To believe that this is possible growth requires a faith in currents that are larger than any one mind can envision. But that is not such a difficult thing to accept, because like dust owes its path to wind, we as human beings are acknowledged by simply asking that something larger encircles us and somehow magically transforms us, yet prompts us to unfold by ourselves. There's a gravity of spirit that pulls the essence of who we are into being. Our job, like any of our sister creatures on this planet, is to find the abundance of air and water and light, and to unfold what is already within us. That beauty that we knew was part of who we were when we were born, that innocence that created that sense of every day being a miracle. I don't know about you, but to me, to be alive today, to be able to share my thoughts with you, to be able to inspire you to live another day filled with wonder, and we're alive. There are a lot of people that didn't make it through this, but we are alive. Not because we're good. Fate. So sometimes you have to ask yourself when you're drifting through life, are we drifting through life on a boat that's being pushed by currents that we cannot see? Or are we climbing towards our old age, leading a horse maybe? Each day becomes like a journey, and the journey itself is home. We won't end up there. We're already there. We'll talk tomorrow, 9:30 p.m. Singapore time, 9:30 a.m. New York time, and 4:30 p.m. Bulgaria time. You've been listening to Uncommon Sense. This is the voice of Dr. Mel Gill. Good night.
In the morning of my life, minutes take so long to drift away. Please be patient with your life. It's only morning and you're still to live your day. In the evening, I will fly you to the moon, to the top right hand corner of the ceiling in my room, where we'll stay until the sun shines another day. To swing on close line, may I be only. This the morning of my life. In the daytime, I will meet you as before. You will find me waiting by the ocean floor, building castles in the ship